make me a law. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I got as far as Capitol Hill. Well,
all right, everybody. Hello, hello, and welcome back to another week of remote learning. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope all your families are healthy. This is actually my second time recording this. My first file got corrupted, so oh no. But we're going to try again. And I know this one's going to be perfect. So let's talk. Here we are again. It's going to be the same exact concept as last week, my friends. You're going to go onto my e-board every day, check it all out. Please, please, I notice a lot of people are not on Google Classroom. Please, if you can, log on to Google Classroom, excuse me. That's super important, especially for Wednesday where we're going to actually have a game, which is kind of cool. All right, same deal. Monday, here are your notes to make a copy as a Google Doc, or if you want to scroll on down, everything is here, the notes, the slides, and the MP4 recording will be here too. I know some people are having trouble with YouTube videos. I'm really sorry about that. Definitely, if the YouTube video doesn't watch, click the MP4 file below or on Google Classroom. I'll actually upload it there as well. And then here is your Do Now and Exit ticket. So we can get our Do Now started. Here I am. And let's go. Let's do it, guys. We have a lot to talk about. So if we are talking about checks and balances today, we finished judicial branch, executive branch, and legislative branch. Now we're talking about how they all work together. So there is our IO for today. Pop that up there. And then our Do Now. Who has the power at Walt Whitman High School? Can those in power do whatever they want? You can fill in your answer and then click next when you're done. If you want to pause it here, fill it out, go ahead. All right. So let's get right to the facts, guys. Woohoo! And then we're going to do that. Okay, so yes, you did have homework last week that is being graded. That was your current event number 3. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Also, please keep in mind, weekly do nows are still being counted. That's what you just did before, right? The Google Forms. Just like we do in class with you writing it down on a piece of paper, that's what's happening here with Google Forms. So I'm keeping track of that. So please, please, please do these assignments every day. And finally, yes, you are reading that correctly. There is going to be a test on Friday, but please do not panic. It is okay. I'm going to tell you exactly what will be on the test. Remember, it's the no surprise guarantee. All multiple choice, some true or false, some where you'll pick either the Senate or the House of Representatives. So if I say, has 50 members, you'll put Senate, right? Stuff like that. Which branch? If I say deals with the President of the United States, you would say executive. Again, you're going to only have 3 options: executive, legislative, and judicial. And same for who is checking who. This will make more sense at the end of the lesson today, but basically I'm going to give you a scenario and you're going to say, oh, this is when the legislative branch checks the executive branch, or the executive branch checks the judicial, or whatever. Right? So that is an example. Or not even an example. This is going to be the test. All multiple choice. It'll all be on Google Forms. Sorry if it's making noise. I gotta just shift for a second. Okay. So yeah, that's what the test is going to be. Let's get right to the notes, friends. So here we go. This is a diagram that explains the branches and how they can check each other. So we look at executive branch, we know it's the president. We look at legislative branch, we know it's Congress. And we look at judicial and we see it's the courts. But what's interesting about this diagram are all of these arrows. So the way this works is, if let's say we want to figure out, how does the executive branch check the judicial branch, let's say, right? We're going to go to executive first, and we're going to look for the arrow that goes to judicial. So we see that the arrow that goes to judicial is this one. See how it's going this way, right? So this must mean that executive checks judicial by how the president nominates judges, right? If we do judicial to legislative, how does the judicial branch check the legislative branch? Well, we're going to start here, and we're going to look for the arrow that goes to the legislative. So the court can declare laws unconstitutional. That's how judicial branch checks legislative, right? And then if we want to do the opposite, how does legislative check judicial? Follow the arrow, start here, follow it this way. Bing! The Senate confirms the president's nominations. All of this should look very familiar. We've talked about it briefly. We've talked about how like it's happening in current events, specifically this one, legislative to executive, right? Congress can impeach the president and remove him or her from office. Or how about this one, where again, the Senate confirms the president's nominations. Remember, they have to do all kinds of like hearings, like Senate hearings. All parts of checks and balances. So take a second now, even if you have to pause the video, to look at this diagram over. And again, if you look at something and you say, huh, I don't get it, Miss H, just email me. I'm always here for you. Awesome. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go through an activity. Think of it like we're in class, as if I would say, okay, guys, do some independent work, and then we go over it together. That's what we're doing here, except I'm not going to give you the free time. What I'm going to ask for you to do is to pause. So in order to make sure that you're testing yourself, make sure to pause the activity, try it on your own, and then we'll double check together. All right, let's do it. All right, so how can the president check Congress's power to make laws? So take a look at that diagram and see, how can the president check Congress's power to make laws? If you put that the president can veto legislation, you are absolutely correct. Now, the reason why I have laws and bills in like parentheses there is because you might see that wording a couple times. So anytime you see legislation, laws, bills, congressional legislation, all pretty much the same concept for our intents and purposes, right? So the president can veto legislations. They can make sure it does not pass. Remember the BOP, right? I'm just a bill. And he talks about vetoing and what happens if that's the case, all right? I thought I would play that in the beginning because, it's the best song of all time. All right, so how can the Supreme Court check Congress's power to make laws? If you put the Supreme Court can declare laws unconstitutional, you are 1000% correct. Now, we know that the Supreme Court's function is to interpret laws. And by interpreting laws, that means, are they constitutional or are they unconstitutional? Do they go with the Constitution? Or is it in line with the Constitution? Or is it actively against it? That's what the Supreme Court has to decide. And remember, when they decide that, they set precedent for all future courts, in the future. That's repetitive. Later on in the line. And finally, how can Congress check the power of the Supreme Court? Two answers here. Here we go. The Senate can confirm the president's nominations, and Congress can impeach judges and remove them from office. So Congress can not only impeach the president, which is legislative checking executive, but they can also check judicial by impeaching judges, because if the judge is not found in good health, or maybe if they break a law, they can be removed from office. Nice stuff, guys. All right, now here is what you will see on the test on Friday. If you look at number 1, the situation is the president vetoes an energy bill passed by the House and Senate because it does not allow for drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife. So, what do we think? What is this an example of? What branch checking what branch? Take a second. Gotta pause. You can always pause. All right. So it's an example of the executive branch checking the legislative branch, right? Makes sense. The president, who we know is executive, is vetoing a bill. We talked about this here, right? The president vetoes the legislation in the first box, which means the president is checking Congress. When we translate that, it's the executive branch, the president, checking Congress, the legislative branch. And there you go. And that's exactly what the test will be like. So pause it now and try the rest on your own. Okie dokie, let's do it together. Number 2, Congress impeaches a Supreme Court justice for committing tax fraud. We just talked about that as well last slide. That is legislative branch checking judicial branch. The U.S. Supreme Court rules that President Grover's Executive Act is unconstitutional. Again, Supreme Court, right away, you should be thinking judicial branch. And President Grover's executive act is unconstitutional. Oh, the word is right on in there, executive branch. Let's finish this up with the last two. The Senate rejects the president's appointment, Judge Smith, to the Supreme Court because of her anti-environmental views. Be careful here because there is all three branches are thrown in there. But if you read very carefully, you'll see that it's an example of a legislative branch checking the judicial branch. Legislative, the Senate, is checking judicial because they are rejecting the appointment of someone to the Supreme Court. They're making sure that judicial branch isn't like too powerful or, it doesn't have an abuse of power either way. And 5, the House and Senate override the president's veto of an education bill with a 2/3 vote. So that's an easy example of legislative, right? House and Senate checking the executive branch. That is the president's. Alrighty. Ready to try this on your own? Okay, please, please, please take note of this. The Google form you are going to fill out, it's not a quiz. Do not panic. No panicking allowed. It says it's a quiz. It's going to be graded like it's a quiz, but I promise you it's not. The only reason why I put it as a quiz, my friends, is because I wanted you to get your answers back right away. Miss H, what in the world are you talking about? All right, let's look. I'm trying to fix that there. Oh, there we go. All right, so if we look, here's what you'll be doing for a few. I think there's only 4. You're going to read the situation. The U.S. Supreme Court rules that a federal law is unconstitutional because it violates Americans' First Amendment rights. You are going to fill in this sentence. This situation is an example of the which branch checking the which branch. Just like what we did, except you're doing it on Google Forms. You're going to go through and do all of them. You're going to be graded. The grade is not counting. The only reason why I'm doing this is so you can see your answers and if you got them right or wrong. If you got a lot of them wrong, it's totally no worries. It's all just practice. Don't panic. But keep trying again. You can resubmit it. I left this open for editing. Try it again. See how you do. And now you'll know what you need to study more of. All right? It's all good, my friends. All right. If anybody has any questions, please, please, please email me. I'm here for you. Tuesday, we're going to do this again. Wednesday, you're going to play a fun game. Thursday, you're going to have review. And Friday, you're going to have a test. So it's going to be a really, really awesome week, guys, because we're going to review so much and you're going to be absolute geniuses in the branches of government. I have no doubts in my mind. All right. If you need anything, please email and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.